How's it going, folks? So, one of the pillars of the gun control strategy is the employment of buzzwords. And what a buzzword is a word, phrase, or term meant to invoke an emotional response. They generally tend to not have concrete definitions, and they're intended to manipulate the target of the buzzword as opposed to actually put any reasoned response. For those of you who understand logical fallacies, this is an appeal to emotion fallacy, is basically what it is. And honestly, I would say if you have spent any time in the gun control debate, there's an absolute certainty that you've heard at least one of these buzzwords. But if you've watched mass media, the mainstream mass media, for any amount of time, there's an almost certainty that you've heard one of these buzzwords before too. I mean, you don't even have to be in the debate to have heard one of these buzzwords the gun controllers use. Gun violence is an example. Gun violence prevention, gun violence epidemic, gun safety law, assault weapon, high capacity magazine, cop killer bullets if you're older. Same for Saturday Night Special, assault rifle, even though assault rifle does have a technical definition when a gun controller uses it, they're not intending you to use it as a means to be descriptive of said firearm. They're just using it as a means to be inflammatory. Gun safety law, that's again, they're not using it in the actual sense of gun safety. They're using it as a means to manipulate people into believing gun control laws are a means of gun safety when any firearms enthusiast will disagree and tell you straight up that they're lying through their teeth. So, gun controllers will definitely use these buzzwords because, again, it's a pillar of their strategy to be manipulative. Another buzzword, high powered. And oftentimes they use that term high powered to describe actual low powered stuff. So you can see where this is an issue. But the one buzzword I do really want to discuss today is weapons of war and hopefully pick this one apart a little bit better because that's really what the term weapons of war is a buzzword oftentimes used by the gun controllers. There ain't any concrete meaning to it, is there? Go and ask a bunch of different gun controllers all on different occasions what a weapon of war is. Well, I bet you're not going to get the same answer. I bet you most of those answers are going to be incoherent or very abstract and emotionally based, or they're not going to really have any actual meaning at all to them. They're going to have no substance to them. They're going to be so broad that they have no substance to them at all. As a firearms enthusiast, I can only think of two definitions of weapons of war that would have any sort of concrete definition to them. And, well, they don't really have, how do you put this? They really lead to one or two conclusions. Either everything is bannable or nothing is bannable. That really is what it boils down to. The first definition of weapons of war would be anything that has been or can be used in war, and that's pretty much everything. All firearms, knives, even bows, arrows, crossbows, swords, rocks, clubs, you name it. So congratulations, gun controllers. You really have said that you do want to ban everything. The other definition, is intent based. Basically, if the person buys it with the intent to use it in war. And what I mean by that is, say this rifle or this intermediate rifle. It's really a more accurate definition. Uh, but yeah, so Johnny buys a rifle like this, just exactly like this, and his intent is targets you. Well, it's not a weapon of war. However, if Johnny's a boogaloo boy and intends to wage war on the government, well, I guess at this point it would be a weapon of war. And that's what I mean by that. At that point, how on earth do you go about banning anything? I mean, Johnny could buy himself a 249 for hog hunting or just collection purposes. At that point, using that definition, that 249 would not be a weapon of war. We've all seen meme of Mr. McNuke from Ancapistan. So even nukes at that point would not be weapons of war because, it's just a recreational nature. So those definitions right there, I mean, those are two, I guess, concrete definitions. Well, in one case, you'd have to ban everything, and in the other case, how do you determine what you can ban? You can really ban nothing at that point, unless the person who buys it says, "I'm using this in war." So you see the fallacy, at least one aspect of fallacy, in the use of the term weapon of war. Um, Another example: machetes. Machetes have been and still are used as weapons of war. Africa is probably the most common place they've been used as weapons of war. So, while I know gun controllers, would love to be at the day where we can discuss banning these, they're not quite there yet. If they came out of the box and said it, well, quite frankly, they'd be laughed down. And not only that, but they probably would be taken less seriously with any other proposals they have. I mean, shoot, for those of you who are FUDs and think, well, all you need for home defense is a slide action shotgun, you have to remember that slide action shotguns are still being used by our armed forces. They're still being used by militaries around the world. World War One, they were used to great effect by U.S. soldiers, and such an effect, by the way, that the Germans complained that the use of these things, well, maybe not this particular model, but the use of these things were war crimes, even though the Germans in World War One were using things like mustard gas. Let's ignore that little fine detail. But what USGIs would do in World War One with their models of shotguns was they basically, when they got to the trenches, hold the trigger down and just keep racking the slide with the shotgun pointed in the general direction of the Germans. They, that actually worked to kill a bunch of Germans in World War One. Now, obviously, with modern shotguns, you can't just hold down the trigger and keep on racking the slide for some reason. The modern developers of shotguns decided that was a really bad idea to have that feature on it. That's a different topic. That's a different topic altogether. So, right now, just with what I've said alone, you see why when somebody starts using buzzwords, you should start really dismissing what they have to say at that point because they're not being honest with you. They're not shooting straight with you. They have very little substance. And yes, they probably do want to ban every single one of your guns. And even if they didn't, well, that's irrelevant. The fact that they want to ban any or put even more onerous restrictions on what is actually a constitutionally protected right, even though we're pretending that it's not. Yeah, so these people are not actually dealing with any sort of logic, is what it is at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, can you really trust these people? I mean, why would you even compromise with that? Why would you even, and really not compromise, but make concessions to that? Why would you negotiate with that? I can't think of any reason as to why anybody would negotiate with that. And that's one of many reasons as to why, by the way, gun controllers are not going to be forthright. I don't think there's a logical bone in any of their bodies. I'm going to wrap this up right here, folks. You have the comment section, and you can let me know what y'all think. Anyway, y'all take it easy out there and have a great day.